First of all, a wonderful good morning. I think 10 a.m. at the second day of Republica almost feels like 6 a.m. on every other day. So it's a great pleasure that all of you are here in that very early beginning. So what we will talk about, the future of Europe will be genius, but how do we get there? That's actually what we discovered we want to provide to you. And my name is Simone Orgel. Thanks for the introduction. I have the pleasure to host this panel. But what is the story behind that? I mean, if you're now walking in Berlin streets, you see all the different advertisements for the upcoming election in not more or less 3 weeks. And it was 2 years ago, a little, when I thought, okay, yeah, institution is the one thing. That's basically what the election advertisements are referring to. But what is actually happening with the civic society within Europe? And when I started to try to get a better understanding, I realized there are good news on this Tuesday morning and before as well, because there are actually a great amount of different organizations, people and institutions and projects who are doing a very great job from my perspective. And it's genius that 4 of them are here, and actually they are focusing on something which is kind of a demand, usually when you're in a discussion about the future of Europe, about democratizing Europe. And 4 demands are actually, for example, that there should be a connection between youngsters, peoples within Europe. That's, for example, what European Alternative is focusing on. Or there is the need of popping bubbles, so somehow connecting people within different thoughts. That's actually what Talking Europe will talk about in a second. And there's also a big demand for a media landscape, trans-European one. That's what European Eurotopics is actually doing. And as well, there's the need of a political approach for Europe. That's what European May will be about. And as I mentioned, it's my pleasure that all of them are here and they're going to be on stage. How do we do that? We thought, especially on a Tuesday morning, we might need a little warm-up in interactive part. So we thought, okay, PechaKucha time would be great. And we're actually doing a speed date PechaKucha. Too long didn't read in the other way around. So we're gonna have for each project 15 slides with only 20 seconds. And afterwards we're gonna have the time for more or less 1 or 2 questions. However, we are looking forward to discuss with you later on. So we're gonna stay here and looking forward to talk to you. So without any further ado, it's my pleasure, and I would ask you for a warm welcome of European Alternatives and Trans-European Caravan with Daphne and Irene.
Yeah, good morning also from my side. I'm Daphne, I'm the director of European Alternatives. We're an organization that has been founded already 11 years ago in the UK, in London, by 2 students at the time, and we are now across Europe active as a European-wide network. We have an office here in Berlin, but also in Rome and in Paris. This is our slogan, democracy, equality and culture beyond the nation state. So what we are about is really trying to create transnational networks of civil society activists across Europe, because this is what we believe, that we need to think beyond the nationalist idea of Europe and think beyond what could be a different idea of Europe from below. And I often have the feeling in Europe at the moment that we are kind of putting on a shower while in fact the house is on fire. And it's really problematic, the trends we're seeing across Europe of fascist trends, of neo-fascist trends and of Nazis entering parliaments. And it's important to kind of foster alternative thinking and alternative ideas. So this is what we're about, and trying to bring these initiatives together. There's a lot going on. There's the protest in Poland. We had Untitled in Germany. There's, I think, kind of a renewal of political engagement almost in Europe. And this is kind of something that we want to foster. And one initiative in particular that we've just launched is the School of Transnational Activism that is just about to start. We're going to have our first session in Warsaw this year, and it's also an invitation for you to join and join the school if you're interested. Ask me more about it. This school is bringing together activists who are already active on a local level in their communities, in that school of 25 to 30 people that are going through like a one-year cycle of trainings. And we're going to have this cycle training starting this year in June, but we're going to have another one next year. So there's another opportunity to join that school at a later stage. And if you want to know more about what we're doing at the school or what we're doing at European Alternatives, ask me or ask Irene, and yeah, I'll pass on to Irene to speak about Transamerica Caravans.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am still catching a few seconds from Daphne's presentation, which is good. I would like to tell you about a project, a very cool project launched by European Alternatives back in 2014 already. It's now at its second edition, and it's called Transamerica Caravans. The concept is actually quite simple. Ahead of the European elections of 2019, this year between 23 and 26th of May, a group of young activists, of 20 young activists, is going to travel throughout 15 European countries, from France to Italy, from Sweden to Portugal, to promote European elections, but mostly to meet with activists and common citizens and whoever is fighting in defense of democracy and our democratic value, and most of all for a Europe without borders. The reason why we are doing this is because of of something very specific, which you well know. These two guys in red circles are some representatives of what we could call the biggest threat that the European Union has faced until now. The rise of populism is the biggest challenge that we are facing right now. But young people have a central role in fighting it, in fighting for a better kind of Europe. So the reason why we are hitting the road is to prove that alternatives exist and that a different kind of Europe is already in the making. The project is structured in 5 different routes. I am part of the Central Eastern route going through Germany, Austria, and Hungary. We will be visiting after Berlin many cities and doing many activities like silent actions, protests, all kinds of things to really prove that a different kind of Europe exists. And what we're trying to do is trying to collect best practices that then can be spread around, and most of all to connect these best practices between themselves. This is our team. You can see us on screen. If you want to follow us on social media, we are being very active. You are more than welcome to do so and to share and to spread the word about it. And well, thank you very much for your attention. We're looking forward to answering to any of your questions.
I missed that we have 2. So as mentioned in the beginning, there would be time for, depending on your questions, 1 or 2 if you have one. There is actually a mic in the middle of the room, because I definitely would have one, because you are actually hitting the road right after the session, right? Is there anything particular you are looking forward to?
I am looking forward to collecting personal stories. Most of all, I think that what people can bring to the table in terms of their experiences can really change the narrative of how we talk about Europe and how we make it from below. So I'm really looking forward to hearing all of these stories and to be able to talk about them. I'm a communications officer in the caravan, so it's really my duty and my responsibility and also my pleasure to be talking about this.
So from what moment on can we be following you experiencing Europe? From right on? Will there be the story right when you pass
Yes.
streets of Republica?
Definitely. Yesterday was our first official kickoff. We had a movie screening, a documentary screening, which already gathered a lot of people. So that was very exciting. And this is, from today, we are, right after the conference, we are going to leave and drive to Dresden. And that's going to be our first, first stop on the route.
I'm already very much looking forward to, and thank you so much for introducing that great project. So, especially for that wonderful PechaKucha, it's quite challenging for you, so you were completely on time, thank you so much. And there we go to our second project, where I introduced at the very beginning that popping bubbles is actually something which is a big demand for Europe, so bringing together people who have different minds. And those two are actually the guys who are really, from my perspective, doing something great in that perspective. So a warm round of applause for Talking Europe and Diskutier mit mir with Moritz and Malte.
Right, thank you very much. My name is Moritz. I'm the co-founder of Diskutier mit mir, a non-profit social startup which I briefly introduced before then turning over to Malte and our European project. Now we believe at Diskutier mit mir and Talking Europe that the dialogue between people who think differently, the dialogue between people who vote differently is fundamental to how our democracy functions. In German, we like to call people who think differently Andersdenkende, which I think is a beautiful term to describe this. Now, this idea that we nowadays all live in filter bubbles has almost become a trope, a diagnosis that everybody seems to agree with in a post-Trump or post-Brexit world. But of course, there is a lot of truth to this idea. And of course, social platforms like Facebook and Twitter have created these echo chambers. While presenting conflicting opinions, often only in a very heated and hectic manner. And our approach is very simple. We choose to tackle this issue where it exists, which is online, of course. And on our platform, users get to affiliate with a political party or opinion, and then they get matched with someone who is as far away as possible. They meet in one-on-one anonymous chat rooms and discuss various theses and themes and topics of interest. We first launched this project in 2017 for the general election in Germany and facilitated roughly 20,000 conversations between people who disagree. And conversations lasted on average about 8 minutes, which made us really happy. Another thing that made us happy is that we were able to help set up similar projects across Europe and growing organically like this in other European countries. And with the European election approaching, we figured that we need to sort of roll out a European version of our app and platform. And now Malte is going to go into more detail on that.
Thanks, Moritz. I quickly follow up. I'm Malte. I'm the project coordinator of the Talking Europe, which is the European extension of Diskutier mit mir. As you know, 23rd to 26th of May, we are going to vote for the European Parliament, that backbone of European democracy since 1979. Yet that European democracy is at threat because of political developments, also because of a systemic shortcoming. And that is, European decisions are taken on the European level, but mostly debated nationally. As you can see beautifully, beautifully here, in the 2013 German-Greek discussions, people discussed not with each other, but mostly about each other. So we have rather hate speech, defamation than a true European dialogue. Yet we live in a borderless travel region, Europe, with those barriers of language, of political debates, but also in the 21st century where we have the potential of internet, of artificial intelligence that we can actually use and kick in here. So what should we do? Let's connect people actually where they live, regardless of who they are, where they come from. We think it's possible to connect people in one-on-one anonymous chats, to reduce those prejudices, those national stereotypes, to actually foster those safe European discussions. Secondly, let us make it really easy. Europe is complicated, but Europe is also part of our daily life. Imagine how great it would be if you sit in the U-Bahn to your work and you discuss about the Spanish elections with your colleague in Portugal in your own language, and not only with your colleagues at work, within a few clicks on your smartphone. And then thirdly, let us use the potential of artificial intelligence. Imagine if you translate the chats directly and it becomes irrelevant. If you speak English, regardless the language you speak, you can actually discuss pan-European with your neighbor from Poland who speaks Polish. That is basically what we have done with Talking Europe. Together with partners, non-profit partners from all over Europe, we have built this network and platform where you can discuss European statements, where you have this safe one-on-one digital space to have those pan-European discussion, those one-on-one personal European public space. Coming back to the start, by this we think we fill the gap of those missing European debates. We connect the national spheres with each other and make it possible to promote those European democracy on a one-on-one level. Thank you.
Is there any urgent question? I would be actually interested in how many people are using Talking Europe right now. Is it actually possible? Can we all jump into the app after the session or tonight?
Yeah, you can. It was launched last week. We have quite a few users already from all European countries: Spain, Portugal, Poland, Sweden, France, Italy. Let's talk again in 4 weeks for the exact numbers. But yeah, it's possible. You can quickly download it in the App Store, in the Google Play Store, or really easy, 5 clicks on talkingeurope.com, 5 clicks and you're in the chat.
I'm going to have my first Talking Europe discussion today for sure. And once again, big thank you to you. And we go further to our third project, from discussing actually within Europe to getting an idea about the discussions within Europe. And therewith, a warm welcome and applause for Andreas and Eurotopics.
Thank you. Thank you, Mona. Hello, I'm Andreas Bock. I'm head of the editorial department of Eurotopics, and I present Eurotopics and our special EU election monitor. With the press review Eurotopics, we present strong opinions from leading media across Europe. All content is published from Monday to Friday in 5 languages, and it's for free. It's a project by the Federal Agency for Civic Education, which is a German public institution, and it's produced by Berlin-based Journalist Network and OST, a network for reporting on Eastern Europe, an NGO. With Eurotopics, we cover a wide range of national, European and international topics, as you can see here, be it Brexit, the Yellow Vests, environmental policy, Russia-EU relations, trade disputes, budget rows, 15 years of Eastern enlargement, we all have it. And we're a platform for, first and foremost, for opinions. So we share comments from several hundreds media from 32 European states. So it is a little bit as if you were reading the papers from all European countries. And on the website, we also provide a big archive with thousands of comments. So why is Eurotopics actually relevant? I'll give you 2 examples. When the migration crisis was intensely discussed a few years ago, people very much stayed in their own filter bubbles. We show the whole political spectrum, from left to right, from pro-government to anti-government media. And also, to give you a second example, and we heard it in the presentation before, you remember the criticism against German-driven austerity measures during the Greek crisis or the debate in Germany about lazy Greeks. While both debates were mostly led nationally, Eurotopics presented insights into the other media landscape and helped escaping the national filter bubbles. Our editorial team is actually based here in Berlin, but our correspondents, translators, social media editors, they are all over Europe, and we are a virtual network of around 50 people, and every 2 years we meet to enhance our cooperation in dark hotels with strange carpets. This year we have a special EU election focus, obviously, the race of the Spitzenkandidaten, the whole right-wing populist parties, the role of the right-wing populist parties, the concepts of the future of Europe. We collect all topics that are relevant regarding the EU elections, and we explain how they are being discussed. To stress the relevance of the election, we set up a special project, so-called EU Election Monitor. And here we ask who are the most important contenders and parties, what do their campaigns look like, and what issues are playing a central role in which member states. It is in English and in German. So what we do is that our correspondents, our Eurotopics correspondents across Europe, report from their countries and explain what is at stake. As you can see here, we also provide different formats. So it's not only about articles, it's also about short videos. So we connect with our correspondents in all those countries and discuss with them. Two topics from the election monitor I would like to highlight. First, the row over the EU copyright reform has triggered a wave of protest, as you know, not only in Germany but also in other EU countries, like for instance in the Czech Republic. So we also shed light on that, and also the second topic is the voting system in Estonia. Estonia is known as the digital pioneer of the EU, and also when it comes to EU elections, and a growing number of Estonians are voting online, which has an impact also on the election results. So this is another interesting topic that we highlighted. We also have infographics. This, for instance, is a forecast about which countries in Europe will gain or lose population in the next decades. We will add more content, many more contents up until a couple of weeks after the election, so there's a lot more to come in the coming weeks. And one of the highlights of the project is the so-called European Streaming Conference, which is on May 16. We will talk with Eurotopics correspondents, academic, politicians and activists about central issues of the European elections, and it will be streamed on the Facebook site of the Federal Agency for Civic Education. This is how it could look like. So stay tuned. All infos you will find here on Eurotopics.net. You can also subscribe to our free newsletter in all languages, and you also find a link to the election monitor. We also have Twitter channels in all languages, in all 5 languages. So yeah, we're happy if you connect. Thanks for your attention.
Looking to all of you for potential questions. For sure, I have another one. On May 16, do you have the feeling that there will be a specific topic or 2 specific topics addressed? Because I have the feeling that within the debate of the upcoming elections, kind of, okay, so many different things are debated, but do you have the feeling from your work that there are 2 main parts you're going to discuss within Europe?
There will be several topics. I mean, there's no 1 or 2 main topics we're going to discuss, because the strengths of this streaming conference is that we involve all our correspondents from everywhere. So we will have a close look into the different countries. So what actually is at stake in the different countries. So it's more or less, it's not a focus on 1 or 2 special topics, but it's rather to give the audience an idea of how diverse the discussion about Europe and the European election is ahead of the European elections.
Is there one example where you do have the feeling that no matter which country from the European Union, they are all debating about it?
Well, I mean, certainly the most important topic regarding the European elections, unfortunately, is the rise of right-wing populism. I personally think it's quite difficult, because discussing all over and all over again about right-wing populism just sheds light on these movements, which shouldn't be like that. But if I have a look on what we covered so far at Eurotopics, for instance, all the debates we've had in the last month, most of them are about certain successes and the role of right-wing populism in different countries.
I'm very much looking forward to all the debates you're going to provide to us. Thanks once again, Andreas. And last but definitely not least, I do want to welcome on stage Katja from European May and all different other active projects and initiatives. So yes, exactly, warm round of applause. And therewith, last but not least, welcome Katja.
Who in this room would agree when I say that the year 2016 was politically seen a shitty year? Hands up. Oh yeah, that's great to see. Well, for me, 2016 was the political horror year of my entire life. Everything that I took for granted was under pressure now. The Brexit referendum was hard. The election of Donald Trump for American president was even harder, I think, for many of us. Not to mention the rise of right-wing populists all over Europe. 2016 showed that nothing is carved in stone. If we take the European Union as an example, the EU is the most successful project of the 20th century. But we are living in the 21st century. The achievements of the EU, especially the fundamental freedoms, are especially taken for granted by my generation. But we all know it's not the case. The EU is in crisis. The status quo needs to be, can no longer be maintained. What we shouldn't do is to bury the head in the sand, because it doesn't help if you do nothing. I started to realize what we need is a pro-European alliance of of people from the society, from the civil society, from politics, from culture, over party and national borders. So European solutions need European, no, the other way around. European problems need European solutions. For us as the European society, this means that we need to act transnationally. Together with other young committed people, I started the pro-European campaign, the European Moment. We aimed at bundling all these small and bigger social pro-European initiatives and putting joint pressure on political decision makers. I've already mentioned the rise of populists all over Europe. How about the pro-Europeans? There's one thing we can learn from them: to build alliances. We are convinced it needs creative formats that are fun. In our actions, we need to be the rock stars so that others become groupies, because it's fun and cool to really stand up for Europe. This is exactly what the European May is about. On May the 1st, we've proclaimed the European May. The European May is a transnational set of creative, disruptive, local actions online and offline across cities all over Europe on a symbolic date from the 1st to the 19th of May. And what we say is another Europe is possible. Who is behind it? The European May is organized by a trans-European collective of activists who are connecting people, grassroots initiatives, social movements and unions across the European continent. What we want to show is that our struggles are indivisible. We want to resist fascism, nationalism and right-wing populism. On the 1st of May, the International Workers' Day, we've joined the people taking the fight for social rights and workers to the street. As European May, we were solidarizing with all the 45 million members of the European Trade Union Conference. Athens, the Austrian-Hungarian border, Munich, Ljubljana, Mainz, the Irish border, they had one thing in common on the 4th of May. In all these places, people stood up for the free movement and against borders. We were super excited. There were people coming at the Berlin station, welcoming people who were arriving there and showing up that we need free movement for everybody. It's important, the 8th of May, we all know it's the day of the victory over fascism over Europe. The idea of Europe was to make fascism impossible to return. We see all over Europe that there are right-wing populism and fascism everywhere, so we wanted to show that there are red lines which has not to be crossed. The 9th of May is not only the Europe Day, it's also the day where the EU leaders will meet in Sibiu in Romania and decide over the future of Europe. What we want to do is, we want to be part of it. We want to shake the summit, and we're going to have alternative assemblies. A week before the European Parliament elections, on the 26th of May, we're going to come up for mass demonstrations all over Europe in 7 German cities and also another 12 other European cities, where we want to show there's no to hate, yes to change. What we want to show, another Europe is possible. So who if not us? This question motivated me like no other until today. What gives me hope? We are becoming more and more. We exchange, we organize, we learn. So now it's your time to become part of the European May. So who if not you, and when if not now? Thank you.
Thank you once again, and we actually ran out of time, but I would welcome all of you on stage to say thank you very much for joining us in this very early session. Yes, it might have been too short to connect. However, we're still here physically, so we would love to chat with you after the session, as well as we actually thought that it might be interesting to talk digital-wise with the hashtag RP Europe, and therewith have a wonderful, wonderful second day of Republica, and thanks for joining us. Goodbye.
Yeah.